What is going on, you guys? My name is Justin, but you can call me J Swag, and welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk with Swag. Appreciate you stopping by, giving a listen, hanging out with us here today on this, frankly, beautiful Wednesday afternoon here, at least in Richmond. It's currently 4:37 on Wednesday, March 10th, and it is sunny and 75 out. And I'm very much enjoying it. I don't want it to get any harder than this for like 5 months. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But spring is my favorite kind of weather, and this is it. Sunny and 70s is my kind of jam. But yeah, so we are here today with another new episode. Today we're going to be touching on a couple things. We're going to be talking about Blake Griffin signing with the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to touch on the All-Star weekend that just took place. We're going to talk a little bit of Myers Leonard drama controversy. But before we get all before we get to all of that, I did just want to hit a brief thing just in general about the show. But before we even get to that, make sure you guys are following on social media everywhere you can the show. Twitter is STWScast, Facebook and Instagram are Sports Talk with Swag. The YouTube page is Sports Talk with Swag. Make sure you go subscribe to that because you can watch the episodes recorded live, as well as on the Instagram page. We go live there as well. So I always, take live questions or whatever. But it's just fun to kind of hang out. And you can obviously also listen to this podcast anywhere you can. I love Spotify, so that's my preference. But if you like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, anywhere really, you can listen to this show. And I appreciate you doing that. And you can also write an email to sportstalkwithswag@gmail.com if you have anything you want to say to me. But with that out of the way, I did just want to talk about something real quick at the top of the show, and I know this is making it sound like so serious, but it's not. But I guess that's the main thing is that I'm trying to just hone in a little more on my voice within this podcast realm, and try to just give myself a little more direction with the show. So, it's still going to be called Sports Talk with Swag, and nothing is really changing. It's just for me, I'm just going to allow myself to fully focus on the NBA and the WWE. Previously I've tried to also encompass MLB, NFL, soccer, hockey. Like I've tried to encompass all sports. And I'm not saying I'm never going to talk about any other sport again. But my two passions are basketball and wrestling. And I think that's apparent with this show. I mean, I haven't done a dedicated episode to, baseball or football or any other sport outside of basketball or wrestling in, probably close to a year at this point, or not, if not more. So again, nothing is really going to be changing for you guys, but for me, it's just something that's going to help me to kind of free up a lot of anxiety or fear that I have with this show, with trying to encompass a lot more than I really know or can handle. So again, obviously, if something noteworthy happens or comes up, or we're doing a Q&A episode and something comes up, I'm obviously going to talk about it because I still have a general knowledge of just the sports world. But this show is really just moving forward going to be dedicated to the NBA and to professional wrestling. So with that being said, we can then just hop right into our first topic, which, as I mentioned at the top of the show, is Blake Griffin. He signed on Sunday with the Brooklyn Nets for the veteran minimum. So something I wasn't expecting to hear for a couple more years. You always hear about, the veteran minimum, and it's typically with guys who are nearing the end of their career because they aren't going to be getting max deals, not really going to be getting even like average kind of deals. It's just, hey, there's this special contract that you can sign in the NBA that I don't know what, I think it's 10 plus years experience in the NBA. I can't remember, but there is a specific definition for what qualifies a player as a veteran. And it's basically you only have to pay them. I think that's also a little bit depending on their experience, but it's usually round about $1 million for the contract. So Blake Griffin obviously was with the Pistons, and he was on a relatively expensive deal. I mean, he was traded from the Clippers, but then they agreed to a buyout over the weekend. I think on Saturday the buyout happened, and then Sunday he signed with the Nets Sunday morning. So now he is officially a Brooklyn Net, and he'll be making his debut, I believe, tomorrow night. I don't think they play tonight, so they'll be playing tomorrow night, and he'll be making his debut. And I, would have to imagine he'll be in the starting lineup. He might not. He might come off the bench, actually. But before I get to that, I apologize. I already have to fix something real quick, so we'll be right back. I need to make this so that this does not auto lock. There we go. All right, and we're back. Okay, apologies. We are back. So anyways, like I was saying, so he signed for the veteran minimum with the Brooklyn Nets, and obviously now that, I think in most people's eyes, makes them even more of a favorite to win the title. I got to be honest, I still, and this may just be because I hate super teams, I still just don't think they're going to win the title, honestly. I think if Anthony Davis is fully healthy by the time the playoffs / the finals come around, I still think that they win the title. And I think they beat the Nets if they even make it to the finals. Because at this point, and I know I probably am sounding crazy, but at this point, I have to just go down with this train. Because I've been too dedicated to it at this point. I can't hop off now. I don't think the Nets are even going to make it to the finals. You heard it here first. I've been saying it for a while. I've been saying it since they signed James Harden, or they traded for James Harden, and especially now that they've signed Blake Griffin. I can't tell you who's going to make it out of the East. I think that's part of why I'm not convinced they'll make it, because the East is just weird. It's just weird because it's like I can't sit here and tell you who I think would make it out of the East to the finals over the Nets. I'm not convinced really with any team in the East, but that's also what makes me more confident in this hot take of the Nets won't make it to the finals, because I am personally equally just as skeptical of them as any other team in the East. And so I think all it takes is just like one series for a team to just, either go on a run like the Heat did last year, but doesn't even have to take them to the finals. But if not that, then just like even just like a playoffs like the We Believe Warriors of 12, 13 years ago, where someone comes in, they upset the Nets in the first or second round, and then they're done. That they're. Who knows? I just think that they're a very good regular season team. Obviously, they're proving that. They're the number 2 seed in the East. They have the number 1 offense in the NBA. They're averaging 120 points. And Blake Griffin is only going to help with that. But they're also pretty porous defensively. Obviously, they've all, I think, they've heard the slander, and they're trying to all step up their games defensively, because I think they also just all really want to win a ring. But I'm still not convinced. I mean, Kevin Durant is really the only person on that team who I am can believe in their defense. I don't know. It's just tough for me. And again, it also just comes down to their depth as well. It's just really concerning for me. So obviously at the top, when you're looking at points per game, obviously it's topped off Kevin Durant at 29, then Kyrie at 27, then James Harden at 26 or 25. I can't really read this. It's pretty small. And then it obviously drops a lot to Joe Harris, who's at 15. And then Nicholas Claxton is at 10. Jeff Green at 10. Bruce Brown. Then Landry Shamet. Then DeAndre Jordan. Then Luwawu Cabarro. And then obviously Dinwiddie is injured, so he's not playing. And then Tyler Johnson, Reggie Perry, Chris Chioza. I don't know. And then it's just, you assume their starting five is going to be Kyrie, Harden, Durant. Again, I don't know if Blake's going to start. So if they have Blake start, then it's going to be like Blake and then DeAndre, because that will give them an actual like rounded out starting five. But if you don't do that, if you have Blake come off the bench, then I imagine it's Kyrie, Harden, Durant, Harris, and then DeAndre Jordan. But it's still just, at the end of the day, they just don't have like rim protection and help down low. I mean, obviously DeAndre Jordan once upon a time was one of the best rim protectors in the NBA and often led the league in rebounds and was always like top 5 in blocks. And it's not like he's still not that same player, but he's that same player like in his mid 30s now. Who, let's see, he's played 35 games, so he's played the second most games for the Nets. Is his minutes here? No, they don't have his minutes listed. That's a bummer. But, I mean, at the end of the day, he's kind of just been a little bit of a... I won't call him a problem, but I don't know. He just hasn't done a whole lot. And at the end of the day, ever since they traded away Jarrett Allen, they just haven't had any sort of rim protection or any sort of hope to like replace him. Obviously, there's rumors now that Andre Drummond is also going to be signing with the Nets once he's bought out, but we'll get to that in a little bit because I want to still talk about Blake Griffin. And why is my Instagram or my phone still trying to auto lock? I put you on never. It's weird. Anyways, I apologize. So with Blake Griffin, obviously when you hear it right away, and especially if you're a more casual fan, you're like, holy crap, the Nets are going to win 8 titles in a row with this lineup. But when you really look at it, it's not that big of a signing. So Blake Griffin, he turns 32, first of all, in less than a week. So he's already kind of definitely on the downward trend of his career. And that's nothing personal. That's just typically how it goes for NBA players. 27 is usually your peak. And then from there, you just kind of either plateau or go down eventually. Blake Griffin is definitely on the downward trend. Again, I have nothing against Blake Griffin. I really like him as a person. I'm indifferent about him as a player. I have no ill will towards him. I think it would be cool to see him win a title, although that would just be so heartbreaking as a former Clippers fan to see him win a title and DeAndre Jordan before Chris Paul. But that's neither here nor there. So you're not getting the young, high-flying, Lob City, 25 and 12 Blake Griffin. You're getting a 32-year-old, kind of washed, vet minimum, just got bought out of an expensive contract, Blake Griffin. He's still, he's a good passer and he's a willing passer, and that's always helpful to have as a big man, and especially on a team like this where it's a very, effective and efficient offense, and you have the number one offense, and so that will help them. He's willing to shoot, and obviously he's started taking more and more threes as the years have gone on, and he's worked on his mid-range game, so but he's also at that. On the other side of that coin, he kind of doesn't really have a post game anymore. Some would say he never did. But he can't guard down low. He just can't. And He's not a great wing defender either, especially, again, since he's about to turn 32. Not quite as quick or agile as he once was. And he's just, again, the Nets are still looking to fill the hole and the void that Jarrett Allen left when they traded him away, and they still have yet to do that. And Blake Griffin is not going to help with pretty much anything in that regard. Some interesting notes about Blake Griffin. All these statistics are courtesy of Basketball Reference. His field goal percentage has steadily gone down every single season of his career. It's pretty interesting if you look. I mean, so his first, I think, 3 seasons or 2 seasons, it went up a little bit. And then ever since it hit its career high, it's gone like down every single season consistently. So in the 2011-2012 season, which again I think was his second playing season, he had a career high 54.9% field goal percentage. And since then, he has gone down to last season having a career low 35.2% field goal percentage. So in 10 years, basically, his field goal percentage has gone down nearly 20 points. And that's like kind of alarming. When you look at an NBA player who is a scoring first big man, like, let's not forget he is a power forward. He's a big man. And you see that his season field goal percentage has gone down 20 points to the mid 30s now. That's like really just like almost unacceptable, and is, I don't want to say embarrassing because now it just feels like I'm being rude to the guy. But I mean, he was at 55% field goal percentage in 2011, and he's at 35 last season. It's I think 36 so far this season, but he's only played like 15 games this season or something. And I know he only played 18 games last season. He was injured for a lot of it, but it wasn't much better the year before when he was an all-star and took the Pistons to a first-round playoff berth, where they were just dominated by the Raptors. So that's one thing to note. Another as well is it's interesting to see when you look at his career stats season by season, all next to each other, you can very visibly see when the NBA kind of took a turn from being a mid-range league to a three-point shooting league. Obviously, I think you can kind of look at it and see when kind of Steph Curry revolutionized how the NBA is played. And if you're denying that he's done that to begin with, then you're just denying yourself reality. Because it's absolutely happened, and it absolutely is because of Steph Curry, whether you like it or not. And you can look at it. It was really once they had won 1 or 2 titles, and it was just like, oh, this is very clear. Like, this is the way that the NBA is going. You saw a lot of people change their games. You saw a lot of coaches and teams change their offenses. You saw a lot of individual players change the way that they played. And some players were able to just kind of accentuate how they already played and flourish. So, you had guys like Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, who already were taking more threes than most people in the NBA. But now they were able to just kind of get away with almost taking as many threes as they did, and then add on to that, and make that a real solid part of their game. And then you had other people kind of like your Paul Georges, your Kawhi Leonards, your LeBrons, your kind of forwards who were still kind of score first people or scoring heavy people who can shoot the three, but typically would either go for drives, like they were much more of a cutter, or mid-range, or even post-up game. They could shoot the three, but they wouldn't very often. But now, again, it's a steady, regular part of their game. And then you have people like Brooke Lopez, Mark Gasol, Blake Griffin, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, who were all either power forwards or centered, today, big men in the NBA, who wouldn't really ever dream of taking a three, who now it's a regular, steady part of how they play in the NBA. Some have adapted better, i.e. Marc Gasol, Anthony Davis. They don't take an insane amount of threes, but they make a good amount of them where it's justified for them to take three threes a game. And then other people haven't adjusted as well, i.e. Blake Griffin. Guys Brook Lopez, I guess, does now, but it was really hard in the first 2 seasons where he was trying to add it to his game and he wasn't making any, and he was taking 8 a game. And then of course you have some players who, like DeAndre Jordan. Who else? DeAndre Ayton. I'm trying to think of who else. Guys like that who are closer to your more prototypical big men centers who just still won't even dream of taking a three. And they're just post up, maybe a mid-range elbow jumper, but that's it. So anyways, all that to say, I know that was a lot of context for this point I'm about to make, but you can see when you look at Blake Griffin's season by season statistics, you can see when that change happened. And so let me just tell you. So on average in his career through the first 6 seasons of his career, or 5 seasons of his career, so pretty much his entire tenure with the Clippers, through the 2016-17 season, he averaged taking 0.6 threes a game. So he averaged taking less than 1 3-pointer per game for the first 6-7 seasons of his career. And then all of a sudden it literally jumped to now he averages taking 6.1 threes a game. So he went from less than 1 to more than 6. And obviously he didn't go from 0 to 6 in one season, but I believe he went from 1.5 to 5.7 over one off season. I think it was a 2016-17 season. He averaged 1.5 threes a game. And then the next season he averaged 5.7, and it's again only kind of gone up from there. And so obviously you see that and you're like, okay, well, you can look at a lot of people's statistics, and even, guys like James Harden, or Steph Curry, you're going to see those numbers jump and take a pretty relatively drastic jump at some point around 2016, 2015 when the NBA started changing. But the big difference here is that Blake Griffin, since making that jump in 2017, he's only shooting 32.2% from 3, which granted at this point is pretty much on par with how he shoots the ball in general. But so you'll see guys again, like your 3-point shooters, Steph, Clay, Harden, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. You'll see guys like that, their numbers jumped, but they're still sitting around probably 40%, and the better ones closer to 45, maybe even 47% of their threes are going in. But for someone to be taking 6 threes a game and only making less than a third of them, again, not alarming, but it's noticeable and it's big. It's important, I think. So again, just another facet of Blake Griffin's game that to me just shows, hey, this guy's kind of washed now. He is not the same player he once was in the Lob City days of the Clippers. I'm not saying he's going to do absolutely nothing for them and he's a detriment to the team, because I don't think that. I think he's a good, solid, he's pretty much the only legitimate power forward on their team. So I think he is going to be very helpful for them. I just think it's just the classic media starting this narrative of just oh my gosh, they got Blake Griffin now. These guys are going to win every single playoff series 4-0. it's just like let's not overreact. Let's take a step back. Let's actually look at it and think about how he'll fit on this team, uh, and go from there. So again, obviously, there's only one way to find out, and it's just to watch and see what happens. So I am very curious to see how he fits in with the team. Again, I have nothing against him. I'd love to see him succeed. But I'm just hesitant to think that this is a sure shot guarantee now that they win the title. Because again, at this point, I still think if Anthony Davis is healthy for the finals, I think the Lakers win back to back. Because I think they're just a more complete, deep team than the Nets are. Excuse me. Anyways, so the other part of that I kind of mentioned a little bit ago was the Andre Drummond facet, which again, this doesn't really have to do with Blake Griffin. Griffin is just the Nets, moreover. In that, if the Nets are able to sign Andre Drummond, then I'll be more convinced of, they're probably going to make a finals run here. Because he, like Jared Allen, is a guy who you don't have to worry about on offense. Like, he's not really concerned about that. He's not like a Karl Anthony Towns or a Jokic or a Davis who's offense first. This guy's much more defensively minded, much more about just getting every single rebound and being a good rim protector. And again, he's a 7-footer who's just an actual big man that would be really good to have on the team for them. And I think he, unlike Blake Griffin, will fill pretty much all of the holes and voids that Jared Allen left, other than just his youth. So obviously, what you're going to get with Drummond, I think, is similar, but it's just going to be kind of a few, points less. If you're kind of looking at it as like a 2K rating thing of like, Jared Allen is 21, 22 years old. Andre Drummond is approaching, I think he's approaching 30. He could be a little bit younger than that, but I think he's around my age. So, he's got a little less pep in his step, a little less, speed and agility and quickness and life in his legs. But that being said, you may get a jump from him in those things because he's played his entire career in Detroit and Cleveland. And he played with Detroit when they were bottom feeders, and he's been on Cleveland now since LeBron left. So he hasn't had, he wasn't the tail end of the, 04 championship Pistons, and he wasn't on the, LeBron 4 finals in a row Cavs. So he's just been on some really bad teams his entire career. And obviously signing with the Nets is, again, all but a pretty much guaranteed to make it at least to the Eastern Conference Finals, if not the finals at this point, if he signs. And so I think that may add a little life in his blood and get him excited, and kind of put some life back into his legs and whatnot. But that I honestly would be more interested in that signing and the impact that would have than Blake Griffin. But obviously we will cross that bridge when we get there. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a super quick water break, and we'll be right back. Obviously, for the video, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just pausing the audio recording. But this would be a great time if anyone has any questions or comments or whatever. Feel free to throw them in whatever chat you're in, whether it be Instagram or YouTube. Also, hello, Dad. Thanks for tuning into the Instagram live. Got on my Baylor shirt. I just found this actually. I hadn't worn it in a couple of years. I just found it in our bin of clothes that we were going through the other day. And I was like, this is a great shirt. So, got it back on. Anyways. All right. Moving right along. So next topic I wanted to hit on was kind of debriefing, breaking down, touching on a little bit the All-Star weekend, quote unquote weekend. It's really just one night. So as a quick recap, we had Domantas Sabonis easily winning the skills contest, beating Nikola Vucevic in the final round. We had Steph Curry shining in a three-point contest and making it very exciting, winning it on his last shot, beating the substitute Mike Conley. We had Anthony Simons winning the dunk contest. The dull dunk contest is what I called it. At halftime of the All-Star game. And we had Team LeBron absolutely destroying Team Durant in the All-Star game, winning all 4 quarters and the game pretty handily. I believe it was a 20-plus point blowout victory for Team LeBron. So fun fact, LeBron is now 5-0 in All-Star games since they went to the what do you call it? Captain format, kind of getting rid of the East-West and having captains draft their teams. He's undefeated, 5-0. And so, first things first, let's keep it to one night. I kind of loved it. I would prefer, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what night it is. I think they may be better off if they kept it on a Sunday, because you're going to have more people at home, as their weekends are winding down whenever All-Star weekend comes around. So if you do it on a Sunday, I think you're going to have a better chance than a Saturday, especially since everything's starting at I think it was 6:30. That's just, people are going to be going out on Saturday nights, hopefully by this time next year. So I loved having it be a kind of truncated, compact format. It was really nice because, again, you didn't have to worry about it spanning an entire weekend. And for someone like me who loves the NBA, loves basketball, and obviously loves All-Star Weekend, I love watching all of the stuff. I love the three-point contest, the dunk contest, the skills, the actual All-Star game. I also enjoy watching the celebrity game, and I enjoyed back in the day when they would have, one person from the WNBA team, one person from the NBA team, and then a legend who used to play on that NBA team kind of do the competition where it was kind of like around the world and horse mixed together, where it was you had to do a layup, then a free throw, then a three-pointer, then a half-point shot. I always loved watching something like that as well. But anyways, so for someone like me who loves watching all of the events, it literally takes up an entire weekend because they spread it out on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. So you're literally giving up almost an entire weekend to watch the All-Star festivities, which a lot of people, they're not going to do that. Someone like me, who's an introvert and a homebody, I don't really have that big of a problem dedicating all 3 nights of my weekend to something like this. But there's a lot of other people who would not do that. So I think truncating it to one night, maybe 2, and you do all the events on Saturday night, but Friday night you still have the celebrity game to kind of kick it off. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was nice to kind of just sit down from 6:30 to 11-ish and just watch a butt ton of basketball stuff. I really enjoyed it. That being said, I don't think that it should have happened at all this year. And I know I talked about this a decent amount in the last episode. So if you want to hear more in-depth commentary on that, you can go listen to that episode. But just to kind of sum it up, because I feel the same way, especially given some events that happened leading up to it, I don't think it was the right call for them to have any sort of an All-Star game or All-Star weekend festivities this season. COVID hasn't gotten any better. Um, the NBA is not doing a bubble this season anymore, so they're putting everyone involved more at risk than ever before. And taking all of these players from around the country, bringing them all to one city with not only players, but family, friends, crew members, staff members, coaches, media members, all this stuff, and bringing them all to one city. It's just like, that's not a good idea. I didn't think it was a good idea. I felt uncomfortable about the whole thing happening. I just don't really know how else to say it. It felt wrong. I kind of felt a little dirty like watching it, because it wasn't just me who felt this either. I mean, all the players didn't want to be there either. I mean, they also are dealing with just exhaustion because they had a wildly truncated offseason after an extended regular season, and an extended regular season that was away from all their family and friends in the bubble down in Disney. And, now they're back and they're playing with less off nights, and you're having them come right now then into an All-Star weekend, and they're just exhausted. They're tired. So I don't blame any of them for not wanting to be there. And I don't know about anyone else who watched it, but for me, I could like visibly see that, like I could see the fact that like they didn't want to be there, and they were tired, and they just wanted to be at home resting with their family and friends. Obviously, it's not like everyone was like miserable. Like everyone was still smiling, making the most of it, having a good time, which I think is good and is fair and was the right thing to do, because it's like you're here, so you may as well try to enjoy it. But like you could see, like, I mean, the All-Star game was not competitive at all. Team LeBron won all 4 quarters. They destroyed Team Durant. When it came to the final score, I think it was like 171 to like 149 or something. It was out of control. There was no defense played throughout the entire game, which I know is typical of the All-Star game, and I don't mind it. I expect that with the All-Star games, and I like watching it. I like everyone just getting to kind of show off and have fun. I really do enjoy it. But after we got the treat of last year's All-Star game, where it literally felt like a finals matchup between all the best players in the NBA, and how riveting and exciting that was, it was a stark difference. I'll just say that, between last year and this year. And you could tell a lot of it was just they weren't trying because they were tired and they didn't want to whatever. They didn't want to use all that energy for a meaningless game that they didn't want to be playing this year. So, obviously I don't blame them, but it resulted in a lopsided victory. And, obviously you'll have to consider as well, and this kind of ties in with what I was saying with COVID of, leading up to the game, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons of the 76ers were both prohibited from going to Atlanta and playing in the game because of contact tracing. They went to a barber leading up to the weekend, trying to get those shape-ups to look good for All-Star Weekend. And their barber ended up testing positive, and so due to contact tracing, they couldn't definitively say that they didn't have it, so they weren't allowed to play. So you had Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid already not playing due to COVID. You had Kevin Durant, who was the captain of his team, not playing due to injury. You had Anthony Davis not playing due to injury. You had Devin Booker not playing due to injury. And obviously that's going to happen every year. People are just going to be injured around this time. But that played a factor, and it just made it a little less exciting, and it just, for me, it played into the idea that I had in my own head of just like, this just shouldn't be happening. Especially when like the day before the game, the news breaks that Simmons and Embiid are not allowed to come and play because of contact tracing, and it just felt like that. It felt like that was the last string to kind of unspool the whole sweater. I don't know. It just felt like that was the last straw kind of thing, but it wasn't, and the NBA did it anyway. And I don't know. It just made me kind of uncomfortable, and I wasn't a huge fan of still just having it happen regardless. I will say, though, I did also very much appreciate and enjoy the spotlight that HBCUs got, historically black colleges and universities. Obviously, Chris Paul and the NBPA were the champions of that happening and that initiative. And I thought it was awesome. It was cool to see the spotlight on so many HBCUs, either that I had never heard of or that just wouldn't normally get the spotlight. And, talk about different players in the NBA or WNBA who have come up through HBCUs. You had the national anthem, or not the national anthem. I can't remember the name of the song, but there was a song that's traditionally sung at HBCUs that they had an HBCU choir sing before the game, which I thought was really cool. And just kind of different, informative kind of commercials and segments about different HBCUs that were spotlighted throughout. And obviously the quarterly charity winnings were donated to kind of HBCU driven charities. So I really enjoyed that spotlight, but it also just kind of made it feel even more like a PR move for the NBA to get people to focus less on the fact that they're forcing all these players to go to an all-star weekend that they don't want to during the middle of a pandemic. So it just felt a little weird. It felt a little off the whole time, but that at the end of the day, that's that. What are you going to do? So I need another water break. It's tough not having a co-host here and do all the talking. All right. So kind of our last topic here, I want to touch on real quick before we head out here, is some recent controversy with Myers Leonard of the Miami Heat. So for those of you who don't know, he's an NBA player. For the Miami Heat. Hasn't pretty much played all season due to injury. He's been out. He just recently had surgery. But regardless, he's big into video games, into live streaming. So he has his own like Twitch channel, which he live streams on all the time. He's signed to FaZe Clan, which is a professional gaming organization. So very big and involved in that world. And so the other day, I think it was Monday, he was streaming, playing Call of Duty, and at some point in the stream, he used a very derogatory anti-Semitic slur, which I'm obviously not going to repeat here. And that was that. It was just he was playing video games and he used an anti-Semitic slur, and then obviously it kind of blew up on social media. And then yesterday, he issued an apology saying that he didn't know what the word meant, and he meant no harm or aggression towards the Jewish community, and that he was going to be doing everything he could to kind of learn from this and speak to different people to gain more perspective and knowledge on how he was. I mean, he owned up. He said I own this and it was a mistake. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. Just your classic, PR written apology of I didn't know what it meant. I'm sorry. I'm going to speak to Jewish people to learn more about this and whatever. So that in and of itself is just a bummer, and it's just kind of troubling because it's this isn't the first time that something like this has happened, just like with, a professional athlete, and it definitely won't be the last. It's one of those things where it's clearly a part of his vernacular. It's part of his regular vocabulary because he used it just very casually while playing Warzone with his friends. And you don't use language that you never use when you're playing video games and you're in the heat of the moment. You know what I mean? Especially words that you don't even know what they mean. Like, you have to have a general knowledge of what they mean to be able to use it. So that was kind of disconcerting. And obviously as well, when the apologies, it's just so thinly veiled of a PR written insincere thing. And it was really funny actually on Monday after the stream, before he released his apology. There were so many people on Twitter that were like, I can't wait for the classic "I didn't know what it meant" apology, and that was literally exactly what we got. So that was just kind of a bummer, and I think a lot of people just thought that was that. He released his statement apology. It was announced, I think, today or yesterday that he would be spending time away indefinitely from the Heat, which again is just basically a PR move by the Heat. He's already injured and not playing, so like, of course, they can easily just be like, hey, like, we're, just like, don't show up to the games for like a month or two, and then we'll be good. But then today, this morning, Julian Edelman, who is a wide receiver for the New England Patriots, who is Jewish, wrote an open letter to him, which I really, really liked, and I thought was very classy of him, and I wanted to read it here to you guys. So he posted this to his social media. It says, "An open letter to Myers Leonard. So we've never met. I hope we can one day soon. I'm sure you've been getting lots of criticism for what you said. Not trying to add to that, I just want to offer some perspective. I get the sense that you didn't use that word out of hate, more out of ignorance. Most likely, you weren't trying to hurt anyone or even profile Jews in your comment. That's what makes it so destructive. When someone intends to be hateful, it's usually met with great resistance. Casual ignorance is harder to combat and has greater reach, especially when you command great influence. Hate is like a virus. Even accidentally, it can rapidly spread. I'm down to Miami fairly often. Let's do a Shabbat dinner with some friends. I'll show you a fun time." So, again, that's Julian Edelman of the New England Patriots. And I really like that. I thought that was a great way for him to handle it and to kind of critique Myers and speak directly to the matter without, again, just kind of getting right into the whole cancel culture thing of like, he should never play in the NBA again, and he shouldn't make any money, and he should basically just die at this point. Like, just go live in a hole and no one wants to ever see you or talk to you again. Because that doesn't help anything. No one learns when that happens, and it's just a way for people to get their own aggressive feelings and emotions out, and it doesn't resolve anything. But I thought this was helpful. It was sincere. It was genuine. Again, it addressed it and was coming from the direction of, hey, what you said was hurtful to me and to my community, and I didn't like it, and I think what you did was wrong and bad. But I don't think you really were trying to hurt me or my community, so let's help you, educate you, show you where you were wrong, and like learn from it, so we can all kind of learn from it together and be a better just world overall of humanity and move forward. And so I really appreciated that. I like that. I thought that was a really classy thing for Julian to do. He did not have to do that. He doesn't owe Myers Leonard anything. He could have just said nothing. He could have said, hey, screw you, Myers. You're a douchebag. I hope I never meet you. But he just chose to, be a professional about it, be classy, and I really like that, and I appreciated that, and I think that's the best way that you can handle something like that when you also have a spotlight and you're a part of an affected community, where, you can use your spotlight and your fame, so to speak, to bring education and light to an issue. So I really like that. I thought that was a good way to handle that. But yeah, so that's our show. I appreciate you guys giving a listen or hanging out in the live streams for this. Again, you can check out the podcast on all social medias. You can listen to it on Spotify or any other platform where you listen to podcasts. Check out the YouTube channel, Sports Talk with Swag. Just make sure to give a subscribe. But yeah, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.